Today, I'm going to let Adari explain to you what you're going to do within your group. It's more or less like a review of what you learned concerning the Great Depression. All right, Adari.
Copy the graphic organizer. Explain how unemployment had a psychological impact on many Americans and how that psychological impact affected family life. So how did it bring stress and mess with the minds of unemployment and family life? I'm going to give everybody 5 minutes to write down how did it stress and bring problems to family life and unemployment.
They couldn't get fresh food. People couldn't afford food. That's another thing that happened during the Great Depression. Employment
what's that membership? Most of them had to young adults had to go back to their parents.
Also, people trying to find jobs more, but men were hired for working than women because women could be hired at a very lower price than men could, and so the employment of women increased during the 1930s, but the employment of men decreased.
Okay.
But also the employment of African Americans decreased. They couldn't find any other job, so they had to go to jobs.
Maybe they have to pay them, and also women, they have their jobs a bit more because it's cheaper than men.
Democrats who lost their jobs had to go out and lessen their profits to make it affordable.
African Americans were the last ones to get off the job.
They couldn't find jobs on that great job.
Many city dwellers face unemployment and poverty. They were thinking about committing suicide. Life in the U.S. cities during the Great Depression was very difficult, and they saw the city at its worst.
And the determination to find jobs went higher than they ever have been.
Divorce rate. So with that
divorce rate increased because when someone's loses a job, you don't really want to continue to stay married to that person in situations. Marriage rate decreased.
Democrats have to lower their prices just to make the prices affordable.
So did shop owners. That's why they lost a lot of income.
Oh yeah.
In 1929, 1.5 million Americans were unemployed.
for the Mexicans.
The Mexicans were deported and sent back to Mexico.
Which one?
She got convicted of their homes.
Pay her. Other people gonna pay the rent. So they got convicted out of their home.
Rural residents, they couldn't really do much either because the high demand. Elderly would actually cross.
Is y'all ready to have time? Are y'all about ready?
Okay, is everybody ready to move on to the next topic?
I believe so.
Sorry, I'm trying to explain what you guys are doing. How you explain who are the answers?
Oh. Okay, so what did you guys pick?
For unemployment, we got people lost their homes, people lost money, people couldn't afford food, young adults moved back in with their parents, the unemployment for women increased, the employment for women increased, employment for African Americans and Mexicans decreased. For psychological impact. Suicide rates skyrocketed, divorce increased, marriage rate decreased. People were afraid that the banks would foreclose their homes. Family life. Mexicans were deported and sent back to Mexico. City dwellers had to share food and money. Entire families were kicked out of their homes.
That's good. Okay, Stephen. Can you read it?
We got that many city dwellers face unemployment and poverty. 1.5 million Americans were unemployed in 1929. The determination to find a job rose greatly. They were thinking about committing suicide, and their suicide rates skyrocketed as well as their divorce rates. Life in U.S. cities during the Great Depression was very difficult for people to find jobs and ways to keep their families fed.
Okay, that's good. Marla, what you guys put out?
Well, we had rural residents had a lower demand for their crops that they grew. Nobody really offered jobs to African Americans. It was usually the Caucasians that were offered the jobs first. Women were paid less than the men, and many people had to find jobs. Well, not find, they had to make their own jobs because none were being really offered to them, such as selling apples for 5 cents.
And also, many people couldn't afford to pay rent to be able to afford their homes, and plus they was convicted to be put out.
Okay, that's good. Now we're going to move forward to the interview question / oral presentation. What was President Hoover's philosophy during relief? Stephen?
President Hoover's philosophy towards direct relief was that the people should support the government, but the government shouldn't support the people, and that the people should work for everything that they have to do.
That's very good. Number 2. Okay. People have to solve their own problems. Okay, number 2. What did Frank D. Roosevelt mean by a New Deal?
I would have to say Franklin D. Roosevelt, what he meant by a New Deal would be an entirely new way to run the economy and the country altogether, allowing for people to have a backup plan if something like this were to happen again, instead of just having to deal with the Great Depression a second time.
Right. That's good. Anybody else? No. Alright. Number 3. How did Herbert Hoover and Frank D. Roosevelt's personalities and philosophies differ? Well, Marla?
Hoover, what he wanted to do was he wanted the government to not help the people. He wanted people to help the government, but he didn't really offer any solutions for the matter of the Great Depression, while Roosevelt offered a backup plan and as well as backup plan so that the Great Depression would never happen again.
Excellent. Now, okay. Complete a Venn diagram. Explain how the Great Depression affected both urban and rural residents. So, like, what do they have in common? Like, compare and contrast.
So what is urban?
One is inner city and one is farms.
Okay, so which one is the city? Dealing with the city is what?
Urban.
Urban, and in the country,
Is
farm area.
rural.
Okay, so now what you're gonna do, like Adari said, come up with 1 or 2 different distinct definitions of how did the people cope with being unemployed in the city, and how do they cope with being unemployed in the country? How did it affect the country, the farmers and stuff? People not being able to buy the milk and the eggs and stuff. So that's what I want you to do in your group. Let's spend about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay, so urban inner city. So they basically they got help from like so they started
There were bread lines in the urban areas.
they had to so the demand for their crops was like low because nobody was working. So they like
They created their own jobs. Farmers had to
Wait for crops to ripen, but they didn't work out, so they had to
both
burn. Just put ultimately burn them. Ultimately.
really they could just do what they had on farms. So
Yeah, so they didn't suffer
only thing
as
that
much.
really affected them was the loss of land.
Oh, we looked
They were forced to slaughter their animals.
Yes. No, John.
Well, first I have to write down my points. So they couldn't afford to feed their animals, so they had to slaughter them.
Just one or two things is fine. Just one or two things. Okay, you got it? Show up. Thank you, Jesus.
Poor. But the urbans, they had to move into shanty towns. I don't think the rural residents really had to move up from their homes. Let's see. We had to, they were forced to let their crops rot. They couldn't afford to keep them because no one was buying them.
I'm gonna have to settle for a low price.
But nobody was buying them.
Is everybody finished? Okay. Jada, would you like to discuss what you know?
For urban, they had the Salvation Army assistance, bread line assistance, they were poor, so poverty, and the Blue Cross helped out with like injuries. So, in similarities, they both urban and rural lost money, no one could afford fresh food. So for rural, they stopped growing crops, well, as many crops went bad, and the farmers could live off what they had left.
Okay, good. That was good. Stephanie, would you like to explain what we wrote about?
What people in the rural areas, such as farmers, they had to wait for the crops to ripen, but they wouldn't, so they either let them rot or ultimately had to burn them. And they also had to slaughter all of their livestock because they couldn't keep them fed. The urban side, though, they were able to create their own jobs, but weren't able to do it because they weren't able to finance the money to get the supplies to make those jobs. And they also had to make immigrants that came to the area of the Great Depression go back to wherever it was they came from because they couldn't support them, so they also couldn't support themselves. But both of them, they had to wait because the city was at their worst, so they couldn't send money out or pay anyone efficiently enough. And they also couldn't support themselves as well as they really needed to.
Okay, Marla?
Okay, well, I believe the urban side, they couldn't pay for their mortgages on their house, so they had to move into little shanty towns, little makeshift houses that were made out of cardboard and old lumber. They had to make their own jobs, but like Stefan said, they didn't have the stuff to supply them with. While the rural side, since they had animals, they couldn't really pay for anymore. They had to slaughter them.
Or feed them.
Couldn't really feed them because they didn't really have any money to feed them. So, yeah. And they let their crops rot because they didn't have enough money to buy the supplies to care for the crops. And alternatively, If they didn't let them rot, they burned them. So, yep, but the thing they both have in common is that they both didn't have any money to supply what they needed for life.
I think that each group did an excellent job, and that's the end of our lesson.